So good morning. Today's the unit we're doing today is actually called um, "Show Leadership in the Workplace," and I wanted to start this conversation by talking about what leadership is. And I'm going to write this phrase. Oh, leadership is the ability to influence others. Leadership is the ability to influence others. It's interesting because I think back in the good old days, I think leadership was about telling other people what to do. That the boss would decide what needs to be done, and they would make a decision, and they just tell everyone what to do, and everyone would be probably if they knew what was good for them, they would do it. And I think it was a very authoritarian type process. Now, that still exists to some degree now, and in some organisation it still exists completely. But I think the new model of leadership is not so much around being authoritarian, but trying to influence other people in our team so that they want to do the job. So the difference between if you keep telling people what to do, then that they're not necessarily engaged in the process. Whereas if you can influence them what to do, then they will be engaged and they'll actually participate and in fact give you a greater level of commitment and a greater level of effort. So I wanted to examine this a little bit more. So let's think about this. What are the factors that I have at my disposal, if you like, to help me influence others? And we've just talked about one of them. We have position in the organization. Now, for many of you, or for probably all of you there, you have a position of senior constable or a senior sergeant, or you have a position. Someone has given you a position, and for many of you, you have people in your team, and you could use your position to tell people what to do. And that would work to a degree. You go around and just tell people what to do, and I'm the boss, and this is what you're going to do. But I think there's more to leadership than just this badge that you have. They say what leadership is. Leadership. Leadership is not a badge. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is a behaviour. So what we're going to be talking about is what are those behaviours. So as I said, one of those factors we have here. One of the other things that could help us lead other people is if we were an expert. Can you read that in the green? Just nod your head. Whoa, I lost. So one of the things that we would help us influence the behaviour of other people is if we're an expert. Let's put this in the context of this program. So for the context of this program, while we're together for these 6 hours every 2 days, every 3 weeks, I'm ostensibly the leader of the program. Yeah, I think people probably accept that that's the case. And my job is to influence your behavior. My job is to lead you. And even though I have a position, and you know that I've been given this position to lead this program, the reason you allow me to influence you is not just because of that. One of the other reasons you listen to me and allow me to influence is because you think I know what I'm talking about. You think that I have some expertise. So you actually are listening to me and actually thinking and actually being influenced by me. So the question then is, what other tools or what other things going on in our relationship, in fact that's the word, that strengthen that? I think what I have been attempting to do in the short time that we've got to know each other is that I'm trying to build a relationship with each of you. And I do that by talking to you individually, by knowing your names, by having a little bit of banter, by talking, trying to make it personal. So some of the conversations I have with you are directly aimed at you. And over a period of time, I'm going to try and build those relationships. And I think because I started to build those relationships with you, you feel much more comfortable with me. Put your thumbs up if you think that's the case. That you feel as though I'm and you're doing the same. You're responding in the same way. We're having little jokes with each other. We're talking about different things, and we're actually getting to know each other a little bit more. I thought this would be one of the difficult things to do, given that we're not doing it in a classroom together all day, that we're doing it on Zoom. I thought this part of it would be difficult, but it's actually a lot easier than I thought. So this leadership of mine relies on my position, it relies on my expertise, it relies on my relationships with you. It also relies on what I call me as a role model. In other words, this is about your opinion of me as a person. Not anything to do with my expertise, but how I am, whether I'm fair, whether I treat people with care and respect, how I behave, the word role model is that I lead by example. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If I follow through and I talk to people and I manage. The big thing here is, and we'll talk about this a lot as the day goes on, but this is about managing my emotional state, managing how I communicate with people. And I would suspect if you think about people in your organization, I bet you can all think of a couple of people in your organization who you respect enormously, and it's probably because you respect them because of how they treat other people and and how they operate their life, how they behave. Leadership is a behavior. So this is more about the person, and I think we're all role models for other. The principle about role modeling is that if I want my team to behave in a certain way, the first thing I need to do is behave that way myself. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we're going to be looking at that. The other ways we can influence other people. Ooh. Ooh. I'm falling apart. Help me. What I've just written up there is performance management. So the other way that I can influence other people's behavior, people in my team, is by giving them performance management, by talking to them about their performance. And in the context of this program, I think that's what I do a lot. And you'll notice that I give you feedback in all sorts of ways. That I use praise and encouragement. That if you say something that is, I think, right, that's just happened this morning when I asked you about what you remember from last week. You all came up with something, and I praised you, encouraged you about that. And what that does to you is make you feel as though that you're on track and that you're doing a good job, which you are. I also would give you some feedback, as I did with Wendy today. I went out on a limb and I said, maybe the challenge for you, Wendy, is to think about the most effective thing you want to do. And that kind of resonated with her. So that's performance feedback that we give people, provided we do it with care and respect, provided we do it correctly, and we'll be talking about that, how to deliver that sort of performance management. That has an enormous influence on how people in our team perform and what it is they do. The other two, there's another one up here. Oh, by the way, there are 7 sources of influence. One of the other ways is what we call networking. Now, this is not quite so relevant here, but this is about the networks that we develop. So this is about, this relationship is the relationship I might have with you, but this would be the network that I would have. So this is the other relationship. So if you think about this, is in the police force, is how well connected you are to other people in the police force. So it might be what's your relationship like with the commissioner, what's your relationship like with the other senior people in the organisation, what's my relationship like with my peers, because that strengthens our delivery. So in the context of me, this could be, what's my relationship like with AIPM, with Amanda and Jane. That's kind of important that I have that good ongoing relationship, because it supports what I do with groups or cohorts like yourselves. And lastly, number 7 is systems. So, do the systems that I use support that influence? So in the context of this program, that might be things like this system that we're using now of, if you can see that over my shoulder, the system we're using now, delivering this on Zoom, does that support my work? Does the My Village system work? Does that support? So let's put this in some context. So I've tried to put it in the context of me, but let's think about someone in your workplace who has the ability to get things done. You will notice over a period of time that they might have a project or something they're trying to get done, or their particular job, and they seem to be able to get it done quite efficiently and effectively. And if you think about those people, try and think of someone. You don't have to put a name to them, and ask yourself, how do they do that? And quite often these people that you might be thinking of, I don't know who that is, but they might not necessarily have the most senior position in the organization. But I suspect what they do have is some expertise, or more importantly, probably have relationships, or even more importantly, that they are a good role model, that people respect them and like them. That there's people in the organization who don't necessarily have this, but they're able to influence other people quite easily because they're well liked and respected. They have good relationships with people. They know what they're talking about, and they provide feedback to people. And they have this ability to what seems like effortlessly influencing other people. Other people will do things for them quite happily. And it's all because of the way that they are as a person, not necessarily because of the position they have, but about who they are. And as a leader, I think the challenge for all of us, even though we have this position, is not to use it. Is that exactly, we can actually influence other people to do what we want them to do by using these other things rather than that. Now, that could be the last resort. At the end of the day, you might say something, I understand what you're saying, Peggy, but look, I'm going to make a call on this, and I am the boss, and I've got to make a decision. So this is what it's going to be. But that's, I don't think you'd necessarily be playing that card that often. So that's I want to talk about this particular model right now because it sets the tone for what we're going to be talking about in the next 2 days. And I'm particularly interested in talking about this some more. We will be talking about this later on in the program, not in the next 2 days. Performance management, we're certainly going to be talking about later on in the program. But today I want to talk about us as a person and how we operate as a person and how we lead other people through our own actions and how we actually behave ourselves. Next time we get together, we're going to be talking about how, as a leader, we communicate that, the methods of communication. But for today and tomorrow, we're going to be talking more about you as a person in that leadership role.